I've just had another client granted indefinite leave to remain on the innovator visa. So I acted for many of the initial applicants under the innovator visa route. That was 3 years ago now. And so those early applicants have come up to their 3 years or just before and have applied for indefinite leave to remain. I told you in a previous video about my first applicant, who was possibly the first person to be granted indefinite leave to remain under the innovator visa, and for his family as well. And I just wanted to highlight a few points. This is just a live video. So the first point is planning is so important. So do start 1 year before, at least, for planning your indefinite leave to remain application. I mean, possibly the best way to approach this is to reverse engineer it, if you like. Look at what you need to achieve at the end and then be thinking about that right at the beginning. That's the approach that I take in my innovator visa applications when we're applying for the initial visa. It's not just about getting the endorsement, it's about getting it through the Home Office, but also thinking about the test that's going to be applied by the Home Office specifically at the end of the period. And that's whether you're going to apply to extend or to get indefinite leave to remain. And the second point I wanted to make is about tax. So you should have your tax affairs in order. Any figures that you put forward are going to be double checked by the Home Office against HMRC. And you need to have an accountant lined up who's good in cooperating and part of the team that you have with your lawyer to coordinate the documents. So again, this is not just for the endorsing body as an audience, but for the Home Office itself. And that's specifically in relation to the 50,000 optional success criterion, but also for some of the other criteria. One of my clients satisfied the 1 million turnover route and also the 500k with 100k overseas income pathway. So one way or another, you need to have the accountant lined up for an accountant's letter to give the relevant confirmations. There's potentially other ways of doing it, self-declaring it, but really you want to have it in bulletproof format from a chartered accountant. Next, IP is important. So I've told you before that in my view, copyright is not sufficient. A trademark isn't going to be sufficient. In most circumstances, it's not going to be enough to link that with significant research and development. So there's really got to be, a package of material, like I'm talking an inch thick, on how you've developed how you've done your research and development leading up to the point that you apply for IP. And that could be in relation to the development of your platform. Every case is different. Next point I wanted to highlight is the original business plan you submitted with your endorsement is super important, because it's there that you're talking about what your expectations are. And remember that the significant achievements that you need in order to extend or get indefinite leave to remain is judged against the business plan that was endorsed. So whatever's happened at your endorsement review meetings, the reference point is the original business plan. Now, I have talked before about what happens, particularly with COVID, if your startup hasn't worked out or the business hasn't panned out as you expected it to. There is a specific procedure for amending the business plan and having that approved. But generally speaking, you want to just get it right first time and track against the original objectives in the business plan that was endorsed. So part of that is not overpromising, especially in connection with financial projections. Saying you're going to do X hundreds of thousands in year 2, let's say, and then not delivering on that. Now, with the point that you're submitting the application, as I've said before, you can submit it 28 days before your 3-year period accrues. So it may be that the 3rd year has not yet concluded, but important, to have a look at your accounts. Often you'll be looking at the financial year running April to April. You may be, depending on when the financial year is. But if it is April to April, then that year is likely to have started later than the date on which you got your visa, or you're granted entry clearance, or you got your BRP. So the question is, when is year 1 and year 2 calculated? So again, it all depends on what you said in your business plan, but that's important to take into account. The next aspect is residency planning, both for you and your spouse, but and also for the children. The residency requirements for the children are less onerous. In one of my cases, my client's child got indefinite leave to remain at the same stage as he did, so at year 3. In most cases, though, it's going to be at year 5, when both you and your spouse get indefinite leave to remain. And then last point is that the endorsing bodies seem to have different approaches, different interpretations of the rules. Obviously, this is the first time that applications are going through. But ultimately, the Home Office is going to take its own approach. The Home Office will independently assess this, can ask for the underlying documents. Don't just assume that they're just going to take the endorsement letter just at face value, especially if it's poorly drafted or poorly thought out. It's a big deal. It's not like the equivalent that you get for skilled workers of the confirmation by the sponsoring entity that it's going to continue to sponsor you. There's much more involved in it. And so that underlying material will come under scrutiny at one point or other, and it needs to be solid. So I hope those are some helpful pointers. I do have some free checklists and guides that you can get access to by clicking on the links in my video description below. I think it's really important to get things right first time, given how much is at stake if you're applying for a visa, or if you've already got it and you're then applying for indefinite leave to remain. Feel free to use my consultation service. You can book a call with me. You click on the link in the description in my pinned comment below, or in the description, and select a time that suits you from my calendar. I'd be pleased to speak with you, and I wish you every success in your visa application. Bye for now.